Hello. Woohoo. Back for another show. Mission accepted. Okay, you guys, what are you accepting? What missions are you taking? You know, that's what this show is all about. And of course, I love talking to those incredible creatives. And personally, if you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, whatever sector you are, if you decided to take the mission on as an entrepreneur, you either are a creative or you're going to get creative pretty fast because it is a multi plate spinning experience. And so we hope to inspire and motivate you to keep on the mission if you've decided to join us on this mission or to venture into this world yourself. Or you might be just here listening to these incredible stories because you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and you're going to go, maybe not. No, you're going to go, maybe yes. I got to do a great shout out. You guys are the best podcast audience ever. And you know that I know where you're dialing in from because I'm one of those people. I've got that part of my brain that always checks our stats and who's coming in and woo, big reach out to Ireland. Thank you guys. You guys are pouring it on the show. Okay. Look, we have someone who's joining us today that has not only a decade in terms of having his own business, but he's done it all. He's worked corporately. He's had side hustles. He's had things make money. He's had things not so much make money, right? And so he's had the full gamut and he's still here, people. He is still here. I am so excited. It's just been such a pleasure to meet all sorts of people in the last few years through this world of social and connections and media. And it is how I have met this incredible man. And ironically, we met through, I believe, a similar authorship. And nice to talk to a local guy. He's from British Columbia. He's from Canada. So for Canada, lucky Maple Ridge, which I know very well. So Alex, welcome to Mission Accepted.
Thank you very much for having me. Deb, I don't want to appropriate that I'm Canadian. I'm German, but I live in Canada, so.
Hey, Canada's a fantastic melting pot of the most incredible people.
Very accepting country.
Very accepting company. Okay, country. You have an interesting title for yourself. We were talking a little pre-show, and I was like, so Alex, we all have different titles in our company. Most of the time, it's us by nature, but you were like strategy facilitator. Now, have you guys, I have to say, this is the first time we've interviewed somebody who is a strategy facilitator on top of being an incredible author. So share with us a little bit about what you do and what made you decide to take the plunge.
Strategy facilitation is actually, it maybe sounds fancy, but it's not that fancy. It basically means that I'm helping organizations, large and small, through processes that at the end give them their business strategy. So if you facilitate a process, it basically means you are not the expert in their business regarding their subject matter, but you hold the unique knowledge about the process. You can help people through certain questions or through question processes to explore and expand their knowledge about a certain topic and create an asset, in this case, a business strategy, that they probably couldn't have created without you helping them because they don't know how to create it. So that doesn't mean that businesses don't know how to create strategy. It just means that bringing someone in who has done this multiple times with multiple organizations, various sizes around the world, that type of person, a facilitator, just brings something that you most likely don't have, and thereby either accelerates the process or makes it way more valuable so that the end result for you is something you can really use.
So that's very interesting. For people that are like, okay, you think about the different areas of your business or you think of different areas of a project, for example, like I have this great Ireland project going on. You love music like I do. And so there's many different, I'm just trying to give people a visual bit. So there's many different plates that spin and there's many different things, like there's fundraising and then there's the PR and so where does someone like yourself come in? Can you give like a live example of where someone's called you and said, hey, I need strategy in this area. We know we need it, but don't know how to, can you just give us an example?
When you say strategy in this area, this is exactly what people often misunderstand when they hear the term strategy. When I talk about strategy, I talk about the overarching strategy for your business. I'm not talking
I,
about a fundraising strategy, marketing strategy, a sales strategy. These are all needed, but you derive these from an overarching business strategy. So it is about understanding how you compete in a certain market. What is your unique offering? What makes that offering unique and to whom? And understanding what are the handful of priorities that you have for your business that you then use as a framework for decision making. So whenever an opportunity presents itself, you benchmark this opportunity against that framework, which is called a business strategy. And that helps you understand whether you should or should not invest your time and money into this opportunity. So give you two examples. Sometimes, and most of the time, businesses have been operating for quite some time when I work with them. So that means they bring me in because they realize that they don't have a proper business strategy in place. And therefore, they hit this glass ceiling. They just can't grow any further because, let's be honest, with unfocused hustling, you get to a certain point, but that's it then. And if you want, a business strategy is sort of your catalyst that helps you move from unfocused hustling to very focused hustling. And thereby you just bundle your energy and your resources and address it into one aligned direction. And that gives you way more punch and way more impact. So when a company comes to me, they typically tell me that they feel they really can't make that next growth step, or they say something along the lines, we are working very hard, we put in a lot of effort, but we just can't seem to generate the results that we thought we could. And then we take a look at what that means. One of my clients has just started a business. She's a first-time entrepreneur, actually, but she has an MBA, and therefore she had a very clear understanding that what she knows is valuable, but she also knows what she doesn't know, and therefore approached me very early in her entrepreneurial journey. Most of the people I work with, they've been in business for 10 years or more, and they know exactly what they're good at and have experienced multiple times what they're not good at, and therefore bring someone like me in because they know I fill a gap that they have. And it doesn't really make sense to train yourself as an entrepreneur for a decade on business strategy and spend tens of thousands of dollars. You just bring someone in at that point when you need them.
Very interesting. Thank you for that explanation, because it gives people, I think, more of a view of what you do. So giving that, and then I think, honestly, I can understand how people have been. I mean, I've been in business for a long time. This is my 31st year, and I can see very clearly when you're talking, sometimes you're just in it. Like you're in it, like why you started, why you continue. At the heart of the heart, you could, have a couple of glasses of wine and a couple of tears and know why you started. But you know what I mean? Like, your heart is still full of that passion, drive, and desire. You're still doing that. And sometimes I think it can get a little gray, it can get a little gray because you just somehow keep doing what you need to do, or like what we just all went through, right? Does that shift us? Or, are people just, okay, now they're like, hey man, I need to catch up on that. Or financially, that was a challenge, or what's our next, what's the next picture? And stopping and really reevaluating as well, right? I mean, I imagine that you have people that want to reevaluate. My goal or my vision for this company was this, it's kind of gone this way, and to either move it back to that alignment, or what does it mean to the person and where that would go. I would think that it's easy to get lost in that when you are a business owner. So
yes, and especially because some of the terms that you just used are being thrown around in the world of business in quite different ways. So when we talk about goals, for example, or a vision, that those terms mean something entirely different to different people. And when they start reading about strategic tools, for example, and how to create a business strategy and their goals within this strategy, they very quickly get pretty overwhelmed because most of the literature around it is fairly academic and not very applicable to their world. And even the practical books out there, they need certain terminology in order to make it work. And if that terminology is defined in a way that doesn't work for your business, they just throw the books into the bin and be like, yeah, whatever. And then
Right.
they just continue to the best of their knowledge, which is fine. So understanding what a vision is and how to formulate it, these are practical capabilities that you can develop, and you can use them for the rest of your life. And there's no rocket science behind it. But where do you find that knowledge? That's the problem most entrepreneurs have. You can't subscribe to an online course at a business school and learn things like that. That's far too granular, but that's exactly what you need. So
Right.
you can overpay for these online courses in executive education, get great overarching conceptual knowledge, but then you're sort of left alone because you don't know how to apply it to your business.
Right.
Or you can hire a business consultant that is super expensive sometimes that does it for you. But I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, finding the right knowledge and having someone do it with you in a way that you can do it alone in the future. That's sort of what a strategy facilitator does.
Okay, okay. I was just going to ask you that. I mean, as you know, my big thing in my teachings and my trainings and masterminds are focused around top performance, and top performance is always kind of playing in the cream, and then there's milk, and most of us are kind of in that milk, and we're trying to figure things out. Um, so for someone who's in that position, obviously, I'm gonna ask you if people can contact you, and we're going to dig a little deeper into what it is that you do and some of the things that people, I think that's probably a great next question to go to. But while you're sharing, what are some of the results that people get from hiring someone that does what you do? Because I have this really special knowledge of being able to, or gift, I guess, of hearing questions that people are asking during the show. So they're like, without sounding like a vague response, it's when do they call you? What kind of benefits do people get? And is there any tips that you can share with people to prepare for someone like you, or to know that someone like you is needed? I always try to have people have some kind of experience of because for me, that sounds very top performance. I mean, people are performing, but having someone like you come in moves their level of performance and their, success quicker or easier or with less stress or more resources. So can you answer that question?
Yes, of course. And I think I use an analogy to explain what the difference is between achieving top performance on your own and then using external resources to raise that bar and reach even the next level. Right. So if you imagine you build yourself a car, you can do that. Like as children, we use Legos and God knows what. You build your cars, and these cars get better and better and better the older you get, and the more, let's say, sophisticated the materials are that you use. But at some point in time, you realize, man, I'm not a mechanic. That's never going to be a real car, most likely, that drives, Yeah. So what someone like me does is I come in with special knowledge and help you without telling you how to build the car. I help you to build the car. So I'm not someone that comes in and tells you, this is what you should do, then this is what you should do, then this is what you should do. And at the end, you magically hold a business strategy in your head. That would be pretty lame. Anyone can do that. And the problem with this approach would be that when I'm gone, I take my knowledge with me and you are left alone. And next time you reach that same stage, you need to call me again. So that's not what I do. Instead, I come in and help you and tell you why and help you identify the steps to create that more fancy car, that faster car, that whatever it is you want to build. And the difference is, I don't come in and do it for you and then disappear with all the knowledge how to do it. While I go with you through the process, I help you understand why we do the things we do in the order that we do it. And thereby you understand the process. And next time you can do it yourself. And you bring me maybe in for one session rather than having me in for 10. So my goal is not to sell projects to people. My goal is to enable them to run these projects on their own in the future. Because let's be frank, this is super expensive to bring someone in like me every year. That doesn't work for most businesses. They need to understand how the process works, because strategy is nothing that you do and then 5 years you don't do it. Strategy is something you do every year. Otherwise, you just fall behind.
Right.
So you ask for the moments where someone comes in. These are typically the moments when they realize they reached the limit of what's possible with their car. And then they either need to replace the engine or just pour high octane gasoline in it, or, you know, swap the gas engine with an electric engine, or God knows what it is they need to do. But
Right.
that's something they don't know how. And that's when they bring me in to accelerate the growth, to reach that next level, and to understand that I'm not a subject matter expertise in their field. I work with businesses across all different industries, from pharma to automotive to travel industry. They don't value me for my specific industry knowledge. That's what a consultant brings. And that's why I don't call myself a consultant. That's why I call myself a facilitator, because I bring the process that enables them to reach their goals on their terms.
Wow. Okay, and so the next inevitable question would be, how the heck did you end up doing that? What's your story? Where did that come from? You know, where did that come from? And excuse me if I'm not, I mean, I know that you have an incredible book, and I'm not sure if that crosses over with what you do or how much it crosses over with what you do, but how did you get to becoming someone that does this? It's a new job title for some people.
It's very, how do I say that? It's interesting that I ended up in this area, because when I first got in touch with business strategy, I really didn't enjoy the subject. It was in business school when I studied general management, but I did not realize what the breadth and depth of that subject would mean for me personally. So when I then, after business school, joined one of the largest media corporations in the world, the CEO of one of the areas in that business asked me to become his strategy manager. I was like, okay, out of all things, it's strategy. Okay. But it was a great opportunity for me to dive into a topic that I knew has its space and that I didn't understand. Let's say to a degree that I wanted to. So this time it wasn't in business school, it wasn't theoretic, it was on the job. And I had the opportunities to work with external consultants like A.T. Kearney, McKinsey, Boston Consulting, and that helped me soak up tons of knowledge about strategic methods. Over 3 or 4 years in that role, I also saw a lot of things that I never wanted to see again, because I saw a lot of mistakes being made. So I took that knowledge about what worked well and what did not work, and actually became a management consultant myself. So I hired with a management consulting company, and in that process very quickly realized that I'm actually more interested in helping people succeed than fixing broken processes. And that overlapped with certain events in my personal life, so that I decided to go entrepreneur and left the consulting world, and together with a friend of mine, built a company that was focused on both the strategic element and the human element, so the leadership element of it. And yeah, over the years, you learn your ways, you work with different industries, and I always believed in continuous education. So there doesn't a year go by where I don't invest in myself, in my own development. Well, I have to admit, I didn't do it last year because I wrote 2 books. That was kind of research enough for me. So I didn't invest into a specific certificate or anything. But
Right.
yeah, so that's how I ended up understanding strategy in a different way, in a new way. I gave it my own twist, and I ended up where I am today.
Wow. I think that's very interesting. You know, here you have a boss that asked you to step into an area, and you're like, you know, how many times have we been asked to do something, or go to an event? I'm kind of tired. I don't want to go. Like, just the resistance of whatever it is, I don't know if that's really for me, or I don't think, and then you go and you explore and you have a great experience, or an exploratory experience beyond what you thought it was going to be. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's Branson, right? That says, when you get an opportunity and you don't really know, you just say yes and you go figure it out afterwards. And I think what you figure out is whether it's something that you want or not, but that's really, I think that's a lesson that I heard in there. So tell us about these books.
Where do I start? So
wherever you like.
The first book that will come out, it will be published by Wiley in April next year, so April 2023. It will be an anthology that I created off the back of an event that I ran. So I had, in February 2022, I invited 45 speakers from 5 continents, and we had a really great event around the topic of building thriving businesses as entrepreneurs, while at the same time living a fulfilled life. So how do I avoid giving it my all to build a business and messing up my personal life at the same time, and my health maybe, and things like that? So out of that event, I approached 9 people and told them that I love their contribution so much, the conversation so much, that I would love to use it as a starting point for a chapter that they could contribute to my upcoming book, which they did. And we wanted to self-publish, and all of a sudden Wiley knocked on the door, one of the biggest book publishers in the world, and they were interested in the book, and it just spiraled from there. So the book will come out next year, and it's called Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs. So when you open the book, you will realize that it's not a book in the typical sense that over 250 pages explores one topic. It's one of those anthologies where, like, I read one chapter, it might take me half an hour, and then I can put the book away and come back to it maybe the next day or next week without losing the context. So you will realize that this book will probably be with you for years in your life, because at some point a chapter about business strategy might be the right one, and at another point a chapter about creating an impact culture in your business might be the right one, or figuring out ways to transform your life by becoming more self-aware. So there are the book is broken up into 3 themes that focus on soft skills, on hard skills, and on self-leadership. So I think this is a book that will teach entrepreneurs and also corporate leaders a lot of valuable tools that they can apply. So for me, it was really important to have a book that conveys applicable knowledge, and it needed to be written from entrepreneurs and business owners for entrepreneurs and business owners. So it's a book that is really hands-on. It's not theoretic. You can just use it and run with it. So that's the first book.
Oh, sorry. That's the first book. I'm going to stop there. So, because there's lots to unpack there. So for you as an entrepreneur, I know what it's like to compile and put things together, but for you, if anyone is out there and they're wanting to compile in books, and we both play in the anthology world, what was some of the experiences that you had? What was some of the for you being the person compiling this, what was some of the business lessons that you learned, or as you embarked into this world of publishing, what was that like for you?
So first of all, I have a background in the media industry, so I know what it takes to create content. Every good hour of content needs hours and hours of preparation and work. So when you create an anthology that has around 60,000 words, even if other people write those books, in the end, your name is the big name on the book. So you need to make sure that the quality is right. So the work that you put into these chapters together with your contributors is significant. We're talking weeks, if not months, that go into a book like that. Of course, you can publish a book in within weeks and self-publish it, and you can do all that. The question is always, what do you want to do with that book? Why do you actually publish a book? Why do you publish any piece of content out there? So, and your target group is defined by the quality of the content that you put out there. So the target group that I have are people that are very knowledgeable in many aspects. They are entrepreneurs. They have had their businesses. They need knowledge that has a high quality and that is applicable.
Right.
So you better
So,
put in the work.
yeah.
And that simply means if anyone out there wants to write a book, if you hear that and you want to write a book, ask yourself who your target group is and what this target group expects. And that defines the amount of work that you will have to put into it.
Right.
So
So
please
you
don't
were
fall for those
prepared.
shiny promises for people that tell you, hey, publish your first book within 30 days. Ask
Yeah.
yourself how much work you can put into that in 30 days and what the quality will likely be.
Right. Right. So you went in a little prepared, knowing what it was going to take and the level that you wanted to play at. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your second book and what's that one about?
Yeah, the interesting part is I wrote that second book after, the first book that will be published is the anthology, but it was actually the second book that I wrote. The second book that will be published is the first book that I wrote. So therefore, I went into the anthology fully aware of what this is going to look like. I
Right.
was not aware to that degree when I started writing my first book.
Right.
The first book that I wrote was sort of, I transitioned from Germany to Canada right when the first COVID lockdown in March 2020 happened. So that was a really, really bad time to move across continents. And at the same time, a lot of the work that I did back then had to do with traveling to clients. So that was going to a halt. And I had a lot of time. So I
Mm-hmm.
started writing because I felt that when I left Europe, I felt strangely guilty towards my clients in Europe for leaving them kind of behind. While I know
Mm-hmm.
at the same time I was moving closer to those in North America, but that feeling stuck with me. And a friend of mine said, "You know what, Alex? Why don't you just hand them a nice farewell present?" And in my brain, that wasn't a nice bottle of wine. In my brain, that was like, hand them over something they can use. So that was when I basically where the idea of writing a book originated. So I just sat down and started writing, and I had a certain idea in my head, and I realized after 2 or 3 months that the book that I was writing was actually not the book that I wanted to write, and that is probably one of the biggest experiences for me in my life. That when you want to create something of value, and you always have that in mind as your guiding principle, create something of value, then what you create can change over time. And people realize that only when you actually create, you see that things morph and develop, and that
Mm-hmm.
what you had in mind originally might not necessarily be what is that valuable piece
Right.
that you want to create.
Right.
So in the end, that was probably the biggest learning. But you actually asked me what it's all about. So in one sentence, the book describes that framework that I created called the 9 elements of organizational identity that gives business owners and corporate leaders an understanding of how can I use a business strategy process and create not only a business strategy in that process, but actually look left and right and define all the other elements of a company's, of a business's organizational identity. And that means understanding why you do what you do, what the impact is that you want to create, how you want to create that impact, and anything around values, guiding principles. What is it that you need to learn? Anything around capability building and how does it support your strategy implementation? And it's a practical book. I describe the processes step by step that I use with my clients so that when you read the book, you can actually put that into practice for your own company.
Wow. So it's interesting when you talked about, as you started to get into the project in a couple of months, you realized, it was like you were going left and now you're going right. I think that those are tough personal moments. I think those are tough personal moments in a way that when whatever it is, whether you think your project's going to go in this direction and you move in this direction and you start to realize, particularly in creative process, no, the painting shouldn't be blue and red. It should be yellow and white. And do I stop after 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 12 weeks of writing, painting, project planning? Do I stop? Do I pivot within my own project? Do I pivot because it's showing me something that I wasn't really prepared for to be shown? I think those are your personal business moments. I don't know about you, but I've had, a couple of projects that, in amongst the project, it's like, the date needs to change, or the color needs to change, or that that marketing plan not going to work out. Like those are tough, right? Those are tough.
Those are moments that really hurt.
Yeah.
One of the biggest moments for me was when I scrapped a 20,000 word chapter because I realized that's not useful for the book. So for a 50,000 word book, you write 100,000 words. And that is brutal because there is so much that editors in the end take out, and it's their job. They just make it so much better.
It's like
so much more concise.
Part of your soul.
Yeah, but it's again, it's in the end only about publishing what is helpful for a reader, and if you don't use that as a guidepost for you and for the work that you produce noise, and no one needs noise. This world is full of noise. So the only thing that truly matters and that is worthy of someone's reading time is a book or any type of content that gives them something of value to them. And that is defined by what is valuable to that person, not by you. So by putting yourselves into the shoes of other people, of your ideal client, and asking yourself, what is it that they need? You sometimes realize, man, I'm not my ideal client. I should not believe what I think. I should ask and figure out. And that is those moments, and this is not just about the book, those moments, they happen. As an entrepreneur, you have these moments when you realize, gosh, I just produced a 7-module online course with 40 lessons. And it seems that everyone stops at lesson 3. What's the problem with lesson 3? And then you start digging and you realize that it's too complicated, or that it's too long-winded, or, whatever it is you figure out. And all of a sudden, I should have asked before. So you can either scrap the whole thing or you make it better over time. And that has always been my approach. I don't believe in perfection. Perfectionism is a myth. It doesn't exist. I believe in speed, because if I start, I learn. If I don't start and try to make it better and better and better, I waste so much time on something that I think is the right thing or valuable. But you only learn when you do. So I'd rather fail fast and learn and try again than not starting ever at all, because I believe I can make it better and better and better.
Well, that, my friend, is a top performance technique. Absolutely. I'm going to ask you, it may not be in business, but it could be. Who is someone that you've looked up to, or who has made an impression upon you, either, in your personal life, because it rolls into your business, or your business life kind of rolls into your personal? We're entrepreneurial. They bleed together sometimes, but who's been that kind of person that you've looked up to?
Interesting question. It's not actually a person. It's something that really inspired me was years ago, when Metallica was about to break up because they had internal issues, and they were really not performing well as a team, as a band. Basically, obviously also influenced by personal issues of some band members, but how they rallied and how they overcame these issues and how they became a functional team again, that was something that truly inspired me, because it showed me that, first of all, success breeds problems. You become complacent, you bathe yourself in the sunlight, and if you don't stay paranoid enough to understand that you need to develop, even if you are successful, you end up in a dirty pit, and you don't want to be there. So, but when you are there, there's a way out if you are willing to invest and put in the hard work. And I think these are the moments when many entrepreneurs actually pivot. I actually do not like this word at all.
Me neither.
Because it very often means I messed up, and rather than learning from it and fixing it, I just did something else that felt easier or more lucrative. So investing the time and the energy and learning from a mistake or a difficult situation, or just learning from a situation you find yourself in without even knowing how you got there and making it work. To me personally, this has always been way more fulfilling than running away, because I ran away in my life. I ran away from situations. And these are the moments I still regret. These are the relationships I messed up. These are the business opportunities I left behind. And these are the things that I regret. And these are regrets that I can't go back to my first marriage and fix it. It's done, you know. Mm-hmm. But it's something when you are an entrepreneur and you live a conscious life, don't run away from these problems. Try and fix them. Try to make it better. Learn from it. There are situations when things need to fall apart and need to end, but I think most of us run away too quickly.
All right. Well, staying down that theme a little bit, I always believe, I'm a person that believes in sharing with people your goals and your dreams. Now, some people keep them all to themselves, and that's cool. That works for them. We probably are all have both things that we're like, oh, this is what I want for my life. This is what I want for my world. And these are the things I'm going to just keep to me for whatever personal reason. But I've seen all too many times when people put their bucket list out in the world, someone hears that way over here or way over there. And the next thing you know, you're flying a firefly, you know, what is it? A flat. Oh my gosh. There's this famous story about Jack Canfield putting a list on his wall, and he wanted to fly a very, very special fighter jet. And anyway, someone in his office walked in who was one of the only people that flew that jet and was able to take him up. So my point is, what is on your bucket list, my friend? What would you like to see happen either in your business or your personal life that we can put out there? Maybe one day you'll be flying in a plane.
I think when we talk about bucket list, I invariably don't think about my business. I think about the moments that I want to see and the moments that I want to live with my family. So I have an almost 3-year-old son. It's my only child. And he's just the joy of my life. And in my bucket list is showing him the world. And that is literally the only item on my bucket list. I want to travel the world with him and show him how beautiful it is and embrace it and experience it. And the reason is I didn't have the opportunity as a kid and a young adult to travel too much. But when I started, it just blew my mind every time. And I want him to embrace both the beauty of nature. Here in Canada, it's large enough. Just traveling to every province is something that not everyone achieves in their life. So, but I'm really trying to help him see the diversity in the world and to learn from it. That's on my bucket list.
Awesome. That's a great bucket list. So look, I know we have to wrap up here. I know that we're going to probably talk again. I mean, there's so much to explore. And I think in terms of the topic that you carry for people, it's vast. I would imagine that, you know, when you take that lid off, there's a lot of places that you get to play with people in their business. And, you know, lucky you, really lucky you, because the entrepreneurs that I know, and I kind of know a few, it's such a passion project. It's such a bucket of passion and love. And the majority is people take on the mission not only to better themselves in their lives, but the majority of the people that I know, it's also to make external impact. And so when you get to work with people that are really trying to dive down and dig down into making their business successful, and we want everyone's business to be successful, because then from there they can platform and help others, right? I think getting people out of the state of survival or out of the state of whatever it is, so that they can their business starts to make impact. So what a beautiful profession, first of all, and loving to hear more. Love to hear when your book comes out, and maybe we can come back and talk a little bit about some of the principles, right, on what that really looks like for people. So
yeah,
where
what you just explained to me is the difference between success and significance. A lot of us live a life of success by financial standards, you know, but do we also live a life of significance? And this goes beyond financial success. This is closely linked to what you just said about creating a true impact.
Yes. Well, Touche. I'm saying the word touche a lot. I don't normally. I don't know where it's coming from. Who am I channeling that through? Okay. Can you please tell our audience where to reach you? You obviously, there's a couple of books in play, but where can they reach you? And then I have one final last question for you today.
The easiest way to reach me is on my website, alexthestrategist.com, and on LinkedIn. But you probably find me easier on my website because my surname is a little bit tricky. So you just use the links on the website to my LinkedIn profile, for example. And yeah, on that website, there's tons of free resources that you can use, blog articles, and yeah, just go there and take whatever you need. It's an open book.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And of course, it's all going to be in the show notes as well. And so, my friend, our final question today, until we get to meet again, is if you were on your way to a desert island, and I just love the fact that you talked a little bit about, a music band that we all know and love. But if you were on your way to a desert island and you had one suitcase and you only had room in that suitcase for one album, and what album would you take with you? And it was, it's got to be the album that you couldn't imagine never listening to again. And it can't be a greatest hits, and it can't be your playlist.
Sparta, Lines in Sand.
Okay, Sparta, Lines in Sand. All right. All right. I'm going to have to look that one up. Thank you so much, Alex, for being part of Mission Accepted today. And you guys, talking about music, they did a tour.ca. We have just opened, so you guys can go and you can watch the most incredible video that feel the same way about music that me and Alex probably feel about music, but feel about business. And there's a beautiful video there that talks about how music has changed people's lives. And that music has changed people's life. And we're on a pretty big quest here for the next time. This has got some months ahead of it where we're going to be really supporting organizations financially that support people in the industry. And so if you have a love for music as much as I do, please go to theydidittour.ca. And if you want to come onto the podcast, I'd love to have a conversation with you. You could be sitting where Alex is and the world could get to hear about you. So really tough to get a hold of me. It's debdrummond.com. I don't know. deb@debdrummond.com. I don't know. You can Google me up and there I am. So I can't wait to see you, meet you, and have you part of the show. Thank you again, Alex, so much. And you guys, until I see you again, be cool and be groovy. Bye for now.
Bye.